Now we have to ensure that each and every one of us do what we can in our little capacities, in our little corners, to ensure that we try as best as possible to institute activities that will help in reducing the effects of climate change. But you may ask yourself a question, but what can I do about it? There are so many activities taking place that is beyond my control. Each and every one of us have a responsibility to ensure that our actions do not negatively affect the future generation. And as such, there are usually two main actions that are recommended for climate change. And one is adaptation, and two is mitigation. Now, adaptation measures deals with the impact of climate change and have the objective of reducing vulnerable human and natural systems. So we have persons who are vulnerable in our societies. The elderly, they are not, or they will not be able to function as they ought to with these increased temperatures, right? They won't be able to walk to the shops. They won't be able to do a lot of activities, right? So they are among our vulnerable. We have persons who live in some areas which are vulnerable to flooding, land slippages, and so on. So our adaptation techniques should protect those persons and also protect the vulnerable natural systems. Jamaica, we have been losing our biodiversity for quite some time now, right? Some of the things, the insects and flowers and plants that we used to see when we were growing up, we're not seeing those anymore. And those are being lost as a result of climate change. So we all have a responsibility to reduce the effects of climate change by adapting. And some of the adaptation strategies are, it's recommended that you do a combination of adaptation and mitigation. Now, specific actions would be recommended. So you switch from the regular crop variety and try to find a variety that is resistant or to heat, or it is able to withstand heat. So you change the way you do your practices. I notice going across St. Catherine, we have a severe problem with banana and plantains. Most of the plantains, can anybody testify of that? Have you seen any plantain field of late that is just going down, right? So these are some of the unexplainable phenomena that are happening that, you know, we can only say it's a possibility that it's a side effect of the climate change, because when you send these samples to places like Bodles and so on, the results that you're getting back, you have to wonder, you know, what is really happening in the environment. And so I reiterate, it is each and every one of us responsibility to ensure that our activities are sustainable. Some of the systemic changes that we can also employ is diversing our livelihood. Once upon a time, you could depend on a small plot of land to give you a specific amount of produce. You can't do that anymore because the soil is depleted, you're facing increased pressure from insects and diseases, so the best thing to do is to diversify. So if you have a plot of land and you plant some, let's say you plant some sweet potato, I would encourage farmers to do value addition, right? So you don't only sell the raw produce as sweet potato anymore, you slice and you package, because everybody wants convenience these days, right? So for a lot of the housewives or the working mothers, you're coming home in the evening, you really don't have time to peel the sweet potato. So that's a niche market for you. So you slice them, you package them, and you sell them to these persons, because everybody's looking for convenience. So diversify the way in which you earn your livelihood. So the next strategy is mitigation. And mitigation addresses the causes of the problem, which involves reducing greenhouse gas concentration in the atmosphere. Now, the agriculture sector has a substantial potential for mitigation, as it is said that about 30% of our activities are contributors to greenhouse gas emissions. So we are in a position to address those activities. And in so doing, we will mitigate against the ravages of climate change. Now, I could go on, but in the interest of time, let me just remind each and every one of us of our responsibility. Ensure that whatsoever you do when you're farming is sustainable. You treat the soil in such a way that you're thinking about your future generation. So you won't do the slash and burn, right? You'll find another way. You'll clear the land, use the debris from the land to do a compost, right? So let us be responsible. Let us be practical in our activities. Our extension officers are always doing training sessions, and I understand that this particular church is one of the areas or one of the locations where trainings are always conducted. And so we want to thank Ms. Crosby for facilitating that process. So farmers, have a good day, and God bless you.